the shift. Right.
Ready?
Ready.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
Uno, dos,
Welcome,
tres.
shifties.
Welcome. Welcome, one and
Welcome,
all.
friends.
Ladies.
Welcome to our shift.
This shift we're doing here.
Prepare for the shift.
Yeah.
Specific shift. Shift into alignment.
Yeah, alignment.
Alignment. You've had some thoughts on alignment. You did your tarot.
That's
You
right.
asked your tarot, what are we going to talk about today? And
Yeah.
it was alignment.
Yeah, and it's funny because I wasn't doing tarot for a while because I was out of alignment. With it, I was all wonky.
No, you were in
And
alignment. You're
with
in alignment without of being alignment.
so it's the process of getting into alignment. I was in the garden of Gethsemane, going through the torture of learning how to be in alignment with the tarot. That's
There you
what
go.
came to me as I'm like meditating on these cards. I put the pull of the day on my heart. I put the hidden energy on my third eye so that it's revealed to me, so that it's no longer hidden. It's so cool to feel the energy of the third eye and the card connecting, communicating. I love this process. I just started doing it again because I was afraid of the tarot for a little while, and so it's really good to get back into it and have like a connecting with the body part of it. But yeah, that's what came to me in my tarot, is that we want to talk about alignment today, and luckily Elias was aligned with that idea.
I said yes.
He said yes.
But apparently my nose is allergic to that. So.
Uh-oh.
So, why alignment? What were you thinking with alignment?
Well, there was a lot that came up with alignment in there was specifically three Bible verses that came up, and I don't know which ones they are exactly, but it's the five foolish virgins versus the five wise ones. It was the Garden of Gethsemane, and it was the Samarian woman at the well. So those three came to me as I'm meditating on the tarot. And I think that's what we wanted to, I was supposed to talk about, is like clarifying the meanings of those those things from my own understanding and how it correlates with alignment. What are your thoughts though on alignment? Like, how do you know you're in alignment? How do you explain it?
I think of alignment as so I don't know. I've been on a word type process, so like processing the words of things. So like meant is the process. So there's a process of aligning, or not even a process, but like a current state, like a process or a state of being in alignment or aligning. What does that mean? So like I was kind of breaking down the words align, lig. It kind of brought this feeling of ligament, which also means like a line. So like you're thinking about a straight line, and a line, which could mean both away or not in a line. So not but it almost feels like towards. Um, I think it's more of a towards a line. So being connected to, kind of, is kind of what I think. So are we connected to another thing, another concept, another structure, another thing out there? And how do you get into that alignment? How do you get in to connect with whatever it is that you want to connect with? Um, and for me, there has to be an ease, a relaxation in that process of connecting. And I think about the spine. So in your spine, you're out of alignment when one muscle is pulling harder than another. Um, so if there's tension, then if there's unequal tension specifically, um, then you get out of alignment in your back and things are off. You have pain, you have discomfort. But if you can relax those muscles and relax the tissue and relax the things that are around them, your your spine will naturally align itself. And so for me, there's this natural process of relaxation, of letting go of the tension, the structure that we had before, and falling in place with the thing that we want to align ourselves with. And that process, I think, is what I feel like is what we tend to focus on. How do we become how do we come into that alignment? And I think it's a constant shift, it's constant growth, it's constant relaxation and restructuring the of what's inside of us and connecting to what's outside of us.
So it's like saying that the alignment includes the process of alignment, because you don't know you're in alignment without without the misalignment or whatever. um like the front of the coin and the back of the coin, right? So you're including, which is I think what the the biblical stories too, messages are saying as well. That's how you know. um you don't know you've aligned until you've been out of alignment, and the process getting there.
Yeah.
S-
And I think a discomfort in that,
mhm.
like a discomfort, an uncomfortable communication that says you're out of alignment. That could just even be a sight. Like you're looking at, let's say you're trying to line up a 2x4 with something, or you're trying to line up some sort of line against something. You're going to look at it, and your body, your eyesight's going to say that's a little uncomfortable. Like it's not in place. And in your spine, you're going to feel that discomfort and pain or whatever. And you're like, all right, I got to fix that. There's communication. And a lot of times we try to avoid that discomfort. But if we look at that discomfort differently and say, oh, there's a communication there that says, hey, you're not in place. You're not where you need to be with the direction you're going.
It's I'm just hearing that all of our conversations tie into each other, because it sounds like something that we've talked about with. That's what we mean by like the shadow self or whatever, the things that we avoid and all that. That's the communication. It's the
Yeah.
communication to help you get into alignment. um um yeah, so I think of the Garden of Gethsemane is um what what's coming to mind with this specifically, because so the garden is supposed to be the place where Jesus like went through all of this the torture before his crucifixion, right? um which without the crucifixion you wouldn't have the resurrection, right? Which is finally the alignment. So the garden is where you go to prepare your mind for that alignment. If you're not battling with all of this stuff, you're not dealing with, if you're not going through all of the the torture of the thing, because the ultimate fulfillment, or the thing that he was wanting to align with, was the resurrection, was being um the fulfillment of the Christ, the being one with the Father, uh and proving that he is the Son of Man, right? um so all of this stuff had to happen for that to be that. And this is the stuff that we're if you're looking at it in a psycho-spiritual way, this is the torment that we go through when we say, I want to have, like, this income or whatever. We immediately are put into that garden, um to go through all the torture of everything that gets in the way, everything that all of your insecurities, all of the clamoring of, the clamoring of the crowd, which is the um like your what people will call their mental committee, right? All of the voices in your head, every doubt, every fear, everything, every consideration that you have to getting the thing that you want. You've got to go through that, endure that, and keep proving that you are the thing that you say, until you actually die to the former self and are resurrected in that new self of somebody who is the higher value, that is the um, is the fulfilled self, uh, that you said you wanted to be. You started declaring that. So now you've got to have that um, that sort of endurance that you're going to walk through and take the beating, knowing that it's just the stuff that comes up on the way to fulfillment. So the resurrection is the alignment, and the all that torture is also part of that alignment, because you don't have one without the other. That's why when we declare something into existence, what you're met with is what seems like the opposite of that. Is that all making sense?
Yeah. And the thought of, so the yeah, cyclical, I was combining too many words there. The cyclical pattern is something that I was seeing when what you were saying with what you were saying there, and specifically with in Hinduism, of like Shiva, Shakti, and Brahma. Brahma, the creator; Shakti, I think, the preserver. I think that's right. I might mix those two up. And Shiva, the destroyer. So there's a destruction. There's got to be that destruction of self, that death, like you were saying, the torture, the torment of deconstructing what the structure that was there before. And then after that deconstruction, there's the creative process. There's a new life that comes in. And then you get into the preservation, the structure itself. And that is a continuous cycle, almost like a continuous evolution of the structure. Like the structure might hold its form, it might hold its place, but it also has to keep evolving. It has to be flexible. It has to, there's parts of it that has to be destroyed and things that have to be recreated with it. And I see that with that process you were saying there. Where in the Gethsemane, Christ had to let go of all the suffering of the world. He had to let go of all the pain and anguish and all the sensation that was, or all the interpretation of sensation in our lives. And he had to let go of that. He had to deconstruct his self and connect to all of these different parts of life around us. And then there's that's my interpretation of the Garden of Gethsemane. And then there's the trial and the death and then the resurrection. And that has to be a cycle of continuous feeling. Like we have to continually go through the suffering, the Gethsemane. We have to continually go through the new creation of something, the excitement of using our creative and imaginatory powers to create a new structure. And then there has to be a preservation of that structure. It has to form inside of us. And that is a continuous process of alignment. And I think I see alignment less as like a static line and more of a path. Like, are we on, well, we're always on the path. So in some ways, we're always in alignment. We're always in the process. But how open are we to that process? How open are we to that path? What are we looking at when we're on that path? What are we observing? What are we seeing around us? Are we seeing the obstacles that are in our way? Are we tripping on them? Are we, like, how aware are we of those different things?
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so that was my thoughts on what you're saying.
Yeah, and even
Oh,
like what am I aligning to? Is it something that I've created unconsciously or consciously, like something that I'm aware of and that I want? Because you're right, we're always in alignment with something.
yeah,
Which reminds me of now the woman of Samaria. So here's Bible story number 2. The woman of Samaria where you know, Jesus tells her that she's had 5 husbands. And the one that she has now, the 6th one, is not her husband, which speaks to the 5 senses. The 5 husbands are the things we're so married to, the things that we you know can touch, taste, feel, whatever, that we can experience with our 5 senses. We're really married to those because we can, they're tangible. We can experience them. But the 6th husband, the one that we're trying to marry, is the one that we want to align. And the reason that he doesn't need a cup, he doesn't need anything to get the water with, is because he's already in that stillness of having the thing. And he's saying, if you drank from the water that I gave you, which is the water of knowing that everything is already yours, if you just claim it and know that it is, that's when you're going to marry your 6th husband, because you no longer need the grip of reality, of what we are taught is reality, right? You're no
yeah,
longer married to something based on your physical senses. It's a knowing. So alignment is knowing. Is the knowing that you already have the thing. It's the experience of the stillness. If you're drinking from that water, you will never thirst again because you know everything that you want is already yours.
yeah. And I think about knowing is, in my interpretation of knowing, is intimacy. You know,
Oh yeah.
that that depth of being close to, and yeah, just that depth of being close to a concept, an idea, another structure, a person, a being, of something like that. Um, because we can say we know something, we can say we know a concept, and someone else would be like, "That's a bunch. That's a lie. That's, you know a lie, or you know this." But at the same time, they know a concept, they know a structure, they know something, that they're intimate with that concept and idea or that person or that thing, even if it's deceptive in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And um, and so I think that is what, you're in alignment with that concept, you're in alignment with that structure in life. You are intimate, you know it, you're close to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's the beauty of our life, I think, too. It goes back to what we were talking about last week, of like giving meaning to um, to these structures and concepts. Are we willing to give meaning to those things? Are we willing to be with them um, and accept them for what they are? And if there's something that we don't want to be in alignment with, are we willing to deconstruct that meaning? Are we willing to detach ourselves from the meaning that's there, and that maybe not even completely erase the meaning? Like, detachment doesn't have to mean erase. It just means that you're not tethered to it. It no longer has the sway on you. It doesn't push you around like it used to. But I think it also has a beautiful thought behind getting to, I don't know, attach yourselves to new ideas, or at least make space. That idea of making space with the new ideas, with the new concepts and structures that weren't there before. Do we have space for that imaginative creation in our mind for new ideas? And I think that's a process of alignment right there, is giving space to something new.
You just reminded me of another Bible story that wasn't planned. The story of how Tamar's father-in-law goes into her and knows her, with the promise of giving her a child. That's the intimacy that you planting a seed, just like you planted the seed of this podcast. You went into me and knew me, and I gave birth to this child, right? And I was just like, let's do this. It's no longer an idea. You've planted the idea, and I gave birth to it, right? Because I wanted that thing. It's like how you've convinced me, you've seduced me, right, into into this idea. So I
I
really
planted the seed, but you seduced me, I think, into doing this.
unknowingly, yeah, maybe, yeah, because it does start in the subconscious. You don't really realize that it's there, right? So yeah, it may have come out of your mouth. You had the seed because for you was clear. For me, I didn't know. Didn't even occur to me that I would want something like this. So yeah, which came first, the chicken or the egg? um, it was a
The
co-creation.
single-celled organism.
uh, but yeah, so that's the point of because I think Tamar means palm tree, which is like, if you're in the desert, that's the most beautiful thing that you can see because it's a sign of life, right? And to a man in the desert, that's the most beautiful thing that he can see, um, because he doesn't have the thing. There's no sign of any life, any creation, until he sees the palm tree, because that's gonna reveal an oasis. Um, so yeah, that's the whole point of is becoming intimate with the thing that's going to give life to your creation. It's going to bear you a son. It's going to give you um, the the desired outcome. If we're looking at it psychospiritually again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it comes in the question, what do we want to give birth to? And I think sometimes we don't get that choice, but or at least we don't get to choose exactly how to create the choice, what the creation is and how it gets created. It kind of goes back to this, um was it a meditation I gave, or just something? I know we did a meditation on it, but there was this meditation where, yeah, it was a meditation that the concept got created, of like, we were in this meditation and we were giving birth to this idea, almost, to these things that we wanted to manifest in our lives. And then we had to, like, let go of that creation, of that manifestation in our mind, and let it grow and develop into itself, just like a child has to go and create and build itself into its own being, its own its own thing. If you try to control that creation, that child, then you hinder it, you traumatize it, you stifle it, and the growth and the potential diminishes a ton. But if you give birth to these ideas, or even just your child in general, you let them disperse themselves out in the world and grow and create themselves into what they need to be, allow them to have their own intelligence, they become this magnificent and beautiful creation in the world, this creative force, also like creating more ripples and more impact than if we are trying to control it ourselves. And so I think that's almost part of our alignment, is letting go of the control, surrendering to the process, surrendering to the intelligence of life around us, the intelligence and free will of the creation itself, or of the concept, or of the structure. How does it want to move? How does it want to evolve? How does it want to do all these things? And can we give space for that? Can we be with it, exist with it, without trying to manipulate it ourselves? We interact with it, and that interaction is a creative process. Like, it's creating those ripples with it. But can we interact with it, but also give it its own free will, its own intelligence to do the thing that it feels it needs to do, the thing that it wants to do?
without micromanaging it. I called that one Wishes Like Children. It's one that you guided us through, and I was thinking this whole time, well, should we post that one too? Should we share the link to that one so that the people can experience it?
We need to create a section um of meditations for people.
In the channel.
Uh,
Yeah.
some yeah, we could do it on the channel, or we could do it on a website or something.
Mm,
But yeah, we've got a lot of good a lot of good meditations that we've made
yeah.
throughout our days.
Yeah, I know we could create a playlist on on the YouTubes. Uh so we can at least start with that. We do have a domain name if we wanted to create a website. I tried to start that, but I gotta I gotta have the energy and the stamina for that I don't have yet. Soon. um,
Well, we got to get some people on too.
yeah, we gotta get some followers, people interested. Um, yeah, I figured it, the time that it would take, because I've already paid for it for the year. I think just to have the domain name, it's like $12 for the whole year. So I was like, oh yeah, by that time we'll have people. Can't believe nobody had shifthitthefan.com.
There you go. Now you know our website.
Yeah, it just says coming soon. Um, that's right. We got to get in alignment with that.
Yep.
Um, yeah. Okay. So then what's the other one? The other story was the five foolish virgins, and I think it's similar in the five wise ones. It's similar to, um, it's similar to the Garden of Gethsemane, except that Jesus is not involved. It's a groom that you're going after, and that one is speaking to, do you have enough oil or the mental stamina to actually go with your five senses to um to meet your groom, the one that you want to marry, the thing that you want to marry. So that's the oil in the lamp, is, are you mentally prepared to have this thing? So if I say I want restore my physical um health, that's my groom. That's who I'm gonna go meet. So um, no matter what the evidence is to the contrary, I know that my mental strength, that I know that I have the oil, in my lamp to get me to the journey overnight and some. Uh, and that's what it is. That's what I need is if I decide on something, do I have the strength of character, the mental diet, the mental clarity and unwavering faith that I know I'm gonna accomplish this thing, regardless of how many times I almost died, and how every time I get uh uh have good days, then it's followed by a series of or longer time with worse days and all this stuff. Am I gonna have the character to endure all of that and still know that my husband is, I'm going to get the husband. I'm going to be the one. I have the wisdom to know that I've gotten the guy. I've gotten the husband. And I'm gay. I don't even I don't even want a husband. But, the husband that I'm going after, yeah, I want that one. The marriage to my perfect health, or perfect in the way that I visualize it. Right? So that's the story of the foolish virgins versus it's the story of who actually gets the man. Do you have? Are you going to create something without having the character to follow through and um and know without a doubt, no matter what, you've gotten it, or are you going to create something and just you know not follow through and then do everything contrary and make meaning out of all of this stuff, because you're going to run out of stamina if of the mental stamina if you keep buying into all of the evidence uh, that's contrary to actually getting your husband. Now
Yeah.
me.
I think there's an interesting thing that you said in there about endurance. And the best way to endure anything, well, and first, the cool thing about endurance is that you're going to make it through anything. As long as you have life, you're going to make it through. And like that's the thing that you can trust is that as long as your body is here, you're still going. You're still ticking. You've made it through however many years you've made it through. You're alive. Your body has gotten you through everything. So endurance wise, just keep breathing. Like you're gonna get through whatever. But also and I think to that point, with that point, is like there's a relaxation to the endurance. Like the best way to endure through anything is just relax because you're conserving your energy. And that's an interesting aspect of who has the oil in their lamps and who doesn't. If you don't have oil in your lamp because you're not relaxed or you're constantly spending the oil on things that are in the now or like in the things that you really want right now, when you can preserve that and spend that energy on the thing that you want most. Um, and I think that's what I get out of that too. It's just, can we relax enough? Can we be okay now to preserve the energy, preserve the oil for the things that we really want later on, the thing to allow that manifestation and that those those things to come into our life. Can we relax enough to be in alignment with the thing that we desire in our heart?
Yep, that reminds me of the card, my tarot pull today.
Yeah.
The the uh I mean, it's what gave me the idea of alignment is, the main pull was the Knight of Pentacles, which, if you've seen the Knight of Pentacles, he's so still that not only is the horse growing, plants out of his head, but so is the knight. There's leaves coming out of his helmet. right? So that's the level of still and calm that you want to get to, right? And then the hidden energy, uh, which is what was hidden to me, is the magician. Um, so for me, it was like the magic is in the stillness, and that's what I keep hiding from myself. Is that's where my magic is, because I keep, just like most of us, we think there's an action to take when we want to manifest something. We immediately start going to work and micromanage and taking the actions that we think are the right actions, but those are always going to manifest or produce mediocre results. But if you get to that stillness, you're going to be given the inspired actions. You're just going to feel like doing something that could be completely, could seem completely unrelated to the thing. Um, and the example that I keep bringing up is taking strawberries to your neighbor from your garden, right? Which is one of our friends did that to manifest the thing that she wanted in her life. She was looking for clients uh, closer to her because she was going at least 30 minutes out of her way to go get that, right? And so she had decided that, you know, she's going to get it. She's aligning with that. And and then, the next day or even later that day, I don't remember exactly. She just was like, "You know what? I want to take some strawberries to my neighbor." Right? And and then her neighbor became her first client, not because the friend asked the neighbor, "Are you looking for this service?" The neighbor said, "Hey, don't you do this type of service?" And she says, "Oh yeah, I do that." So that became her first client, and then that she got her first three clients just from word of mouth because the neighbor had um had loved the service so much that she recommended two people to her. So she had her first, the beginning of her thing just from something that seemed completely unrelated to the thing. So, and there's so many stories of people doing things that seem completely unrelated to the thing, but it's the feeling, it's a thing that they really wanted to do in the moment. And because they're doing that thing that felt good, that felt inspired, that felt like they're just being playful or whatever, and that's what attracts the thing. It's like being led by that feeling, that um, being the feeling of like being spontaneous and adventurous and just inspired, like wanting to do what feels good, you know.
Yep. And it's what it reminds me of what Rick Rubin says of like, you don't create the creations. The creations are born on themselves. Like they are, it's like they're in the out, like they're a spiritual creation and they're waiting to be birthed through you. And it's kind of similar to how we talk about um how my church talks about like the birth of children. Like we are spirits, we're spirit children and we are waiting to come down into this life. um and that's how Rick Rubin talks about these creative processes. Are you open enough and willing to do the creative thing that is waiting to come through you, waiting to be born through your body and through your mind? um that's a tricky thing because a lot of times that's scary, but if we're open enough to listen to the thing that's trying to be created, then it'll come through to us. And if it's not going to come through to us, then it's going to go through to somebody else because that creative that thing, that idea wants to be born. It wants to happen. And so we have to be willing to allow it to come through. We
Hmm.
have to be willing to take that step.
Yeah, I thought of also, it's like an unspoken myth that if you were like that, the people think that the evidence of being in alignment with something that they wanted to manifest is that they no longer experience the negative stuff, which has been coming up in our conversations a lot, which I feel like that's how alignment has been sort of brewing since last week, is that I hear these things in the conversations, with the people that we know. They expect, they think that the bad thing that just happened to them means they're not, they're doing something wrong. When, if you're trying to manifest money and you have an experience of like being robbed or cheated, or you're something happens, you think, I'm doing something wrong. I'm I must not be in alignment. But that's actually like, rich people also have these things happening to them. People that have manifested the wealth, they probably have it more, right? But they have the oil in the lamp to know that no matter what, that this is just, it comes with the territory, I guess, of having money, right? If you're wealthy rather than just rich, because there is a difference, right? It's the wealthy person is the one that has the oil, that knows, that is
That's
still,
well.
yeah, that is includes like at peace. If you're just rich, you've gotten your money by force or whatever. Not in a Not necessarily. I mean, that's the way at least we sort of describe it in the spiritual spaces. Is the difference. You don't just want the money; you want the peace. You want the knowing that you that you are the wealthy person. Otherwise, you're going to be, if you win the lottery, you've lost the money within a year because you didn't become the person. You didn't have enough oil in your lamp. You just got it by fluke, but you didn't change who you were, um, to know that you're not only gonna keep that money but grow it, and all that. Um, you now have the character for being a wealthy person. Bless you. See my child.
Yeah, and I think it goes beyond those labels of just like, we've had this conversation on Friday with our friend. And this thing was, all these things were happening to her. And it's like, yeah, but it depends on your perspective on this. Like, if you look at those things as things that are bad, or like they're hurtful, or all these things, yeah, it's gonna hurt. Or it's just the thing that's happening. And if you think about, you, when you're trying to manifest, when you're even interacting with the world in general, you're doing anything that you want to do, you're sending these ripples out. Like, I think about dropping a rock in the pond, and let's say you're standing in that center of where that rock was dropped. You're standing in the center of those ripples. You're sending those out, but if there's another rock or another object inside nearby, it's going to send its own ripples from your ripples back at you. Do you have the stamina to withstand those ripples and to just go with the flow? Let them push you around a little bit and just be like, all right, I'm going to go to the next thing. There's always waves happening in the water. There's always these ripples, this flow of water, or this flow of energy that's happening all around us. And they're just things that are happening.
Mhm.
What do we want to do with that? Like, it doesn't stop us from moving, it doesn't stop us from life in general. The abundance of life is here now, whether that's the good or the bad, or the opposite of what we want, or the thing that we want. It's just life happening. And can we just allow that to just go with the flow? And then when we go with the flow, it doesn't become something bad. There's no resistance. And then we can find our own path through those ripples, through the flow of energy. And we say, oh, I want to go this way. And it allows us to go this way because there's no resistance to go that way. And we just keep interacting like that.
Amen.
Amen. Alignment.
Yeah. Yeah. I have no more thoughts on that.
Cool. So go shift yourselves, people.
Yeah. Don't be shifty.
Go align yourself with the flow of energy, the
Mhm.
process of everything that's happening.
Yeah. Try to learn to just accept, because it doesn't mean anything about you and whether or not you're in alignment. Just stuff that happens,
Just flow.
not against you. So everything is always for you.
Yes.
The end.
The end. Thanks, shifties.
Love you, shifties. See you next week. Let the shift hit the fan. Let the shift hit the fan.